وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده.
The Iranians on Friday joined the global protest against Israel for its bombings on Lebanon and Gaza.
The Israel-Iran conflict is nothing new, yet in 2024, the conflict reached new heights as Iran launched 200 missiles into Israel. In what the Republic called a necessary retaliatory effort, Iran has waged war against the Jewish state for the slayings of senior Iranian generals and the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah, the Secretary General of Hezbollah. What's going on in the Middle East? 1. Direct confrontations in the proxy war.
Iran will pay after it launched an estimated 180 missiles at Israel.
30,000 Iranians gathered in a mass-scale protest in Tehran to protest against the establishment of the Jewish state, Israel, in 1948. This moment cemented relations between the two countries for decades to come. To say that Iran and Israel have never had cordial diplomatic relations would be putting it mildly. Tensions have existed for almost a century, but recent events have shifted the Cold War into an active war. In 2024, Iran announced its decision to attack Israel.
We will uphold the rule we have set. Whoever attacks us, we attack them.
In a message sent to Israel's foreign minister, Israel Katz, tensions increased after the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh, the political leader of Hamas, in July 2024, which occurred a few hours after the 2024 Haret Reich airstrike that assassinated Hezbollah commander Fuad Shukr. Iran and Hezbollah pledged retaliation, and on October 1, 2024, Iran launched a series of missiles at Israel. Which one is cuter? Like for the dog, comment for the cat. 2. There will be consequences. Israel responds to Iranian missiles.
Iran has fired missiles at Israel since April as the conflict between the two powers and Iran-backed militias.
Shortly after declaring war on the state of Israel, Iran launched its first series of missiles at Israel. On October 1, 2024, alarms were heard across Israel, with the IDF rushing civilians to shelter. According to Iran, the attack was a consequence of Israel's own doing, claiming this was retaliation for the killings of Guards commander and other leaders. American intelligence agencies claimed that 200 missiles were fired from Iran, whereas the Israeli Defense Force quoted 180. In any case, Tel Aviv reported no casualties in the aftermath of the missile attacks, sounding the all clear in approximately 45 minutes. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared the attack a failure, but vowed Iran will pay for it. 3. Almost all missiles were intercepted, according to the IDF. During a White House press conference on October 1, 2024, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan stated that the U.S. military will be lending American Navy destroyers to the IDF, combining both intelligence agencies to fire interceptors and shoot down inbound missiles. According to a statement by the IDF, the joint militaries were able to intercept almost all of the missiles, reporting that only nominal damage had taken place. However, this marked an escalation into the decades-long Cold War between the two countries, one that Israel claims will be retaliated at all costs. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken stated that Iran's attack was totally unacceptable and the entire world should condemn it. 4. Iranian mission claims the attack was successful.
Iranian state television published these images of what it claimed were missiles being launched.
Despite all 200 missiles intercepted and nominal damage being reported, Iran's mission to the United Nations issued a statement both confirming the attack and declaring it a success. The statement read that the attack was a direct and legitimate response to the terrorist acts carried out by Netanyahu and his Zionist regime.
This holds true wherever we fight the axis of evil.
The statement also addressed the Israeli attacks that had been carried out on the Iranian embassy in Syria in April 2024 and the attack on the Hamas leader in Tehran. Per Iranian state television, the missile attack was successful,
to Israeli villages into military bases, all ready for an attack on Israel.
With claims suggesting that many missiles had made their way through Israel's defense system and hit their intended targets, no proof was given to support this claim. 5. Terrorist attack. Claims 7 lives in Tel Aviv. Hours before the missile attacks, 2 gunmen engaged in what's being reported as a terrorist attack in Tel Aviv's Jaffa area. There's no evidence so far to suggest that the ground attack was related to the missile launch. However, police are still investigating the case. 2 gunmen opened fire on civilians on a railway carriage, which then proceeded onto the platform before the men were reportedly neutralized by members of the public. Police responded to the scene mere hours before Iran launched its missile attack. Reportedly, the officers had to take cover on the platform as missiles flew over them. So far, 7 lives have been reportedly claimed in the aftermath of the ground attack, although some outlets have reported 8. The case is still ongoing, and police have refused to release details of the alleged assailants until further inquiries have been carried out. 6. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Further attacks will be carried out if Israel retaliates.
I speak a lot about the leaders of Iran, yet at this pivotal moment, I want to address you.
In 2 separate posts on X, Khamenei said that righteous people may have to make sacrifices, but they will not be defeated at the end of the day. Iran's supreme leader stated via Iran's mission to the UN that its attack on Israel was over for the time being, further claiming that any retaliation efforts from Israel would be seen as a direct call to war, at which point Iran will carry out a full-scale offensive on the Jewish state. Masoud Pezeshkian, president of Iran, also took to social media to praise the Iranian military for a successful attack. Speaking on the matter, he claimed that this was only a corner of Iran's power and that it foreshadowed a greater victor which was yet to come. It's unclear if Pezeshkian was alluding toward more attacks. After all, he did convey, via the Hungarian foreign minister, that Iran had declared war on Israel. 7. Hamas, Houthis, and the Iraqi Resistance Committee applauded Iran.
The Iranians on Friday joined the global protest against Israel for its bombings on Lebanon and Gaza.
Syria, Houthis, Hezbollah, Islamic Resistance in Iraq, Badr Organization, and the True Promise Corps are so far the only militaries and militant groups that have publicly pledged support for Iran in the Iran-Israel conflict. On the other hand, United States, United Kingdom, Jordan, France, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates have condemned Iran's October 1st missile launch. In its official statement, Hamas congratulated Iran on what the militant group described as a heroic rocket launch carried out on occupied territories. Mohammed Abdul Salam, the spokesman for Yemen's Houthis, also released a statement stating that the Republic of Iran had taken a brave stance against the attacks launched by Israel on the people of Palestine and Lebanon. Finally, the Iraqi Resistance Coordination Committee released a stern warning to the United States, claiming that if the U.S. retaliated alongside Israel in any which way, the resistance would target U.S. military personnel stationed in Iraq. 8. Biden has a message for Iran.
Before I began, I wanted to say a few words about Iran's missile attack on Israel today.
The U.S. is gearing toward a presidential election in November 2024, which will see either Democratic candidate Kamala Harris or Republican candidate Donald J. Trump enter office. Incumbent President Joe Biden will be signing off after health concerns were raised during his initial run for re-election. While the U.S. has maintained support for Israel in its war against Hamas, Biden has repeatedly stated his desire to end the conflict in Gaza during his term. The U.S. president stated that he's been keen on avoiding greater conflict in the Middle East. That being said, Biden, along with Vice President Harris, were in the Situation Room as Iran launched missiles into Israel. The attack appears to have been defeated and ineffective, Biden told reporters in the White House after the attack was over, make no mistake, the United States is fully supportive of Israel. 9. Does Iran have more missiles? According to a 2021 report by the Missile Threat Project, Tehran has an arsenal of thousands of missiles with a variety of ranges. The exact numbers for each type of missile, however, is unknown. In any case, Air Force General Kenneth McKenzie told Congress in 2023 that Iran had over 3,000 ballistic missiles. Weapons experts who analyzed verified social media videos from the confirmed that Iran used variants of the Shahab-3 ballistic missile in the attack on Israel. The Shahab-3 is the foundation for all Iran's medium-range ballistic missiles using a liquid propellant. Shahab-3 entered service in 2003, can carry a warhead of 760 to 1,200 kilograms and can be fired from mobile launchers as well as silos. 10. Missiles stronger than the Shahab-3.
Iran military is holding joint naval, air and ground exercises in the Gulf.
According to Iran Watch, the country now has access to variants of the Shahab-3 that are capable of catastrophic destruction. The Ghadr and Imad missiles, for example, have accuracies of up to 300 meters of their intended targets. Fatah-1, on the other hand, was the missile that was inaugurated during Iran's missile attack on Israel. Iranian officials described the Fatah-1 as a hypersonic missile, meaning it travels at Mach 5, or 5 times the speed of sound. It's worth noting, however, that all ballistic missiles reach hypersonic speeds. What Fatah-1 does have that makes it unique, though, is a maneuverable re-entry vehicle which allows it to make adjustments in its path. Simply, the Fatah-1 can avoid missile defenses. 11. How did Israel respond to the Fatah-1? The Iron Dome, of course. Israel has a range of systems designed to block aerial attacks that range from ballistic missiles to low-flying cruise rockets. But the Iron Dome is the bottom layer of Israel's missile defense and is not the system that would have been used to combat the ballistic missiles launched by Iran. Next comes David's Sling, which protects against short and medium-range threats. David's Sling was a joint project by Israel's Rafael defense system and the United States defense company Raytheon. It uses Stunner and Skyceptor kinetic hit-to-kill interceptors to take out targets as far as 186 miles away. That's still not all. Israel also has the Arrow 2 and Arrow 3 systems, which uses fragmentation warheads to destroy incoming ballistic missiles in their terminal phase. Meanwhile, the Arrow 3 uses hit-to-kill technology to intercept incoming ballistic missiles in space before they re-enter the atmosphere on their way to targets. 12. US and Jordanian interceptors helped Israel.
Ask Mohammed Dev, ask Nasrallah. There is nowhere in the Middle East Israel cannot reach.
Per the US military, 12 anti-missile American destroyers were used against Iranian missiles. The US response came from the Navy-guided missile destroyers USS Cole and USS Bulkley, which were operating in the eastern Mediterranean Sea. The Pentagon did not specify the interceptors used, but the US destroyers are equipped with the Aegis ballistic missile defense system, with interceptor missiles that can strike and destroy incoming ballistic missiles in their mid-course or terminal phases. Jordan's Air Force also intercepted Iranian missiles on Tuesday night, a Jordanian official said, but no specifics were given. During an Iranian attack on Israel in April 2024, Israeli and US warplanes shot down a large number of the incoming Iranian munitions. But Iran carried out that attack largely with slower-moving drones, which were much easier intercepts for the fighter jets than the ballistic warheads falling vertically on targets in Israel. Tensions between Israel and Iran have reached an all-time high. Many fear that the escalation of the conflict could soon engulf all of the Middle East. The two countries have no diplomatic ties with one another, and many in the Middle East and beyond have picked sides amid growing animosity. What caused the escalation of the conflict in 2024? 13. The axis of resistance. After the 1979 Islamic Revolution, Iran severed all diplomatic and commercial ties with Israel, and its theocratic government does not recognize the legitimacy of Israel as a state. However, this isn't to suggest that the two nations were ever cordial with one another. Granted, tensions reached a high during the 1982 Lebanon War. That was when the Axis of Resistance was formed, a network of Iranian-backed and to a lesser extent Syrian-backed militant groups that have united in their shared hostility toward Israel and, in part, the United States. The militias in this group include Hezbollah, Hamas, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the Houthis, and various militant groups in Iran, Syria, and Yemen. 14. Growing animosity toward the Jewish state.
My Jewish community, and I think we must stand for.
While the Axis of Resistance was formed in the 1980s, hostility for the Jewish state and negative sentiments toward Israel had existed for decades, since Israel became a separate state in 1948. In any case, it wasn't until the 1982 Lebanon War that the Iranian supreme leader, the first, Sayyid Ruhollah Khomeini, all but declared war on Israel. This included sending Iranian troops into the south of Lebanon, which was the conflict zone. Over time, and alongside other militias, Hezbollah was formed. To this day, Hezbollah continues to be somewhat of a polarized figure in Lebanon, with some groups supporting the militant and political groups' antics, and others condemning it. To Hezbollah's credit, the militant group adopted a new approach in the late 1990s, whereby they started taking active roles in the Lebanese government. Most of the support for Hezbollah comes from Shia groups in Lebanon, although Hezbollah has been declared as a terrorist organization on almost all international forums. 15. Fragmentation of terrorist groups.
Offensive against a group well-trained in hit-and-run tactics. Now security forces...
The U.S. Department of State has estimated that Iran has spent a collective of over $700 million per annum to support the Axis of Resistance. The numbers were severely impacted following Iranian sanctions since 2019. The larger problem, however, wouldn't be financial. It would be infighting. The group has been termed as loose, based on the fact that despite their shared hatred for Israel, they seemingly have nothing in common. It's also worth noting that terrorist groups such as ISIS and Al-Qaeda are not a part of the Axis of Resistance, as the group doesn't fraternize with organizations following Sunni Islam. Issues within the group include the Houthis ignoring Iran's advice in their siege over Yemen and the October 7th attack on Israel conducted by Hamas, which was severely uncoordinated. 16. October 7th attack.
Hamas has got to go. Just imagine, for those who say, well, Hamas...
In what The Economist labeled as the single most atrocious event in Jewish history since the Holocaust, over 3,000 missiles were fired into Israel via the Gaza Strip, and 3,000 Hamas militants entered Israel on October 7, 2024. Per a Hamas spokesperson, the militant group carried out the escalation of the war in response to growing tensions around the Gaza Strip, Israeli settlements, and the Al-Aqsa attacks. While Israel was able to intercept most of the missiles, several of them were used as decoys to carry out maximum damage elsewhere. In total, combined with ground terrorist attacks, 200 Israeli civilians were reportedly massacred and a further 254 held hostage. Of the hostages, there are children, women, IDF soldiers, the elderly, and festival-goers. Israeli intelligence agencies claimed that by carrying out the attack, Hamas wanted to create a state of perpetual war in the region. The Israeli Prime Minister, Netanyahu, claimed that not only will Israel retaliate, but it will bring back the hostages one way or another. 17. The death of a senior Iranian Revolutionary Guard member. On December 23, 2024, just 2 months into the escalation of the Israel-Hamas conflict, an Israeli airstrike was reportedly used in the targeted assassination of Razi Mousavi. Mousavi was a senior member of the Iranian Guard commander, believed to have been instrumental in joining Syrian and Iranian militant groups. Mousavi had also been the alleged target of several assassination attempts by the IDF the years leading to his ultimate demise. He had been working with Syrian militaries and militant groups since the 80s. The assassination marked the highest-ranking killing of a senior Iranian military official since the targeted assassination of Qasem Soleimani until the subsequent killing of Mohammad Reza Zahedi in 2024. In response, the Iranian media announced that the country would make Israel pay for taking down one of its own. 18. Mass protests in Iran, calls for war. Razi Mousavi's assassination was only the second time in 2024 that Iran called for war on the Jewish state. Several Palestinian lives, including those of children, were lost in the aftermath of the October 7 attacks and the subsequent military operations launched by Israel. Israel's retaliatory bombardment and ground invasion reportedly led to the loss of at least 21,910 people by late 2023, according to Hamas-run Gaza's health ministry. President Ibrahim Raisi said Iran sees it as its duty to support the resistance groups, but insisted that they are independent in their opinion, decision, and action. Mousavi's killing was believed to have been an Israeli attempt to expand the war to other geographical areas. In Iraq, hundreds of mourners attended memorial prayers for Mousavi, whose coffin was taken to the Imam Ali Shrine in the Shiite shrine city of Najaf. 19. The death of senior Iranian generals.
Syria. All were Revolutionary Guards, including one of Iran's highest-ranking officers.
In April 2024, Iran's Revolutionary Guards reported that 7 officers had been assassinated in an Israeli strike on the Iranian consulate building in Syria's capital, Damascus. Brigadier General Mohammad Reza Zahedi, a senior commander of the elite Quds Force, and Brigadier General Mohammad Hadi Haji Rahimi, his deputy, were named among the deceased. Iran and Syria's governments condemned the attack, which destroyed a building next door to the Iranian embassy. Syria's defense ministry said Israeli aircraft targeted the Iranian consulate building, which was on a highway in the western Mezed district of Damascus, from the direction of the occupied Golan Heights. While Israeli officials did not comment on the reports by Iranian and Syrian media outlets, the country acknowledged carrying out hundreds of strikes on targets in Syria that it says are linked to Iran and allied armed groups, which are armed, funded, and trained by the Revolutionary Guards. About Zahedi, Jerusalem outlets reported that he was a part of Hezbollah's advisory board. 20. April 1st, attack on the Iranian embassy.
Iran's supreme leader said a final prayer.
Even allies of the Jewish state condemned the April 1st attack launched by the IDF on an Iranian embassy in Syria, which saw the demise of 7 of Iran's top generals. The Iranian consulate, which also hosts Iran's ambassador in Damascus, was targeted and destroyed by an Israeli airstrike. According to Hossein Akbari, the Iranian ambassador, Israel launched a series of missiles, at least 6, at the consulate building via F-35 warplanes. Israel did not comment on the attack, but various outlets reported that Mohammad Reza Zahedi was in fact the primary target. Zahedi was a critical figure in the relationship between Iran and Hezbollah. Footage and photos from the consulate area after the attack showed extensive damage, fire, and smoke. Iranian media reported that the building had been completely destroyed, but that the ambassador and his family, who were housed in the embassy next door, were unharmed. 21. Operation True Promise.
The US Center for Naval Analyses traced that launch location to a valley south of the Iranian city.
Zahedi's demise marked a new turning point in the Israel-Iran conflict, with calls for a full-blown war in Tehran, Tabriz, and Isfahan. The Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei vowed a harsh response to the attack. Iran also sent a letter to the United Nations Security Council, saying it reserves its legitimate and inherent right to respond decisively. On 13th April 2024, the Iranian military launched its Operation True Promise, attacking Israel from its own soil for the first time, firing more than 300 standoff weapons at Israel, including at least 170 aerial drones, 30 cruise missiles, and 120 ballistic missiles. The attack, which constituted the largest single drone attack in history, was described as a success by Iran and as a failure by Israel, the latter saying that its air defenses, buttressed by those of allies, destroyed almost all the incoming weapons before they could reach their targets. 22. Events throughout April 2024.
كانت بالنسبة إلينا أياماً ثقيلة ودامية.
On 13th April 2024, Hezbollah attacked northern Israel with around 40 rockets. Israel responded by bombing a Hezbollah weapons manufacturing site in Lebanon. Later, Iran and its proxies attacked Israel with about 300 drones and multiple ballistic missiles. The Houthis, Islamic Resistance in Iraq, Badr Organization, and True Promise Corps also launched attacks on Israel under Iranian command. Syria shot down some Israeli interceptors. The United States, United Kingdom, and Jordan intercepted over 100 Iranian drones. The drones and missiles eventually hit various cities across Israel, the West Bank, and Golan Heights. The attack also damaged the Nevatim and Ramon air bases. Altogether, 33 civilians were injured. 23. The United States would not attack Iran.
After Israel's weekend assassination of Hezbollah's leader, a move that threatens to let loose a wider war in the region.
The United States said it would not participate in a retaliatory strike on Iran.
I'm more aware than you might know, and I'm comfortable with them stopping. We should have a ceasefire now.
Iran threatened that if Israel were to retaliate, directly or indirectly, it would strike back harder. Israel said the attack warranted a response.
We are at war for our very existence. We will join forces, go hand in hand.
The United States warned Israel to exercise restraint, and the Israeli War Cabinet argued over the scale of Israel's response. Israel delayed plans to start an offensive in Rafah that week so it could determine a response. The War Cabinet continued arguments over the Israeli response during the following week. The cabinet considered military and diplomatic options, with international pressure to de-escalate the situation, influencing decisions. On 18th April, it was reported that the United States would greenlight a Rafah offensive in exchange for no Israeli strike on Iran. The world continues to watch on as tensions between Israel and Iran have reached an unreversible high. The United States has repeatedly warned Israel of showing restraint in its war against Iran. Meanwhile, Biden has also voiced his support for the Jewish state, calling Israel's targeted military operations an act of self-defense. In the aftermath of the October 1st missile launch, however, Netanyahu has warned Iran, as well as global leaders, that Israel will fight back. What do you foresee happening in the Middle Eastern conflict?